Servus, Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. I want to make a quick video today where I think I don't need any charts or any headlines from the newspaper or something. It is a quick video about our political system and our elections in general, or let's just say how they ideally are supposed to work or how they are supposed to work according to our constitution. That the reality is very much different from that, especially in practice. That is clear, and I think I don't have to explain that at length to viewers of my channel, at least to regular ones. So, of course, we are a clown country in a clown world, and while they maintain the appearance of democracy and they try to stick to the formal guidelines or within the formal framework of our constitution. In practice, that is the political establishment, they violate the constitution on a daily basis, of course. So we have elections, we have votes in parliament, but when the outcome isn't the desired one, then we have to vote again, or you cannot say no, you have to say yes. And I gave many examples for this in recent videos. So what I'm trying to say today and is kind of relevant for people outside of Germany who might not be familiar with our system, and I can see that, I can read that in the comments I get, and also it is relevant for some people in Germany, because they might be familiar with the system, how it was practiced in the old republic and also now in the reunified Germany. But we have seen a transition period recently with the grand coalition between Social Democrats and the Union parties, and now we entered, I think, or it is pretty probable that we entered a new world in which there will be a three-party coalition maybe, and the rules of the game, not the fundamental ones of course, but the way the game is played, that changes. And by the statements that some of the politicians have made in since Sunday basically, that tells me that either they're playing a game, which is not really unlikely, or they also don't really understand how our system works. So let's start with some first statements here, and that is the head of our state is not elected. Not even indirectly. The head of our state is the president, Mr. Steinmeier, currently, and he is elected in a very comical fashion. It is like some celebrities. It is actually literally celebrities. It is athletes, writers, and TV personalities, and they are selected in a very intransparent process, and then they get together and it's some kind of assembly and they vote for the president. So the vote of the people or even the parties has nothing to do with that. It is a farce, okay? And that is the head of our state. He is something like a Grüß August or a surrogate Kaiser, emperor, and he has to sign laws, and the previous guy, Mr. Gauck, he tried to be the renegade that denies to sign a law here and there or make some demands, but basically they just rubber stamp everything that is put on their desk, and they have more representative tasks like diplomacy or some state visits, some events. It's more representative, okay? And then the person that is not the head of state, that is especially abroad many times confused with the head of state, is the Chancellor. That is the head of the government. Different thing. So the head of the government. And the Chancellor has the real executive power. And that is still Angela Merkel, of course. And she will probably stay that until maybe even Christmas. Maybe she will give another New Year's speech, because the coalition talks might take some time. Okay, so it is the head of government, not the head of state, that is Well, elected by the people? No, of course not. We are voting for a parliament. We are not voting, or we are electing a parliament. We are not electing our head of government. The head of government is elected by the parliament. And that is what these coalition talks are all about. Because what I mentioned earlier, that some of the prominent party members, or even these chancellor candidates as they are called, they made some disturbing statements. See, I told you that the Social Democrats, they quote unquote won the election, yeah? So that means they had 1.5 or something more percentage points than the CDU, CSU union parties. But that doesn't mean they won the election. That means they have the strongest faction in parliament. But that doesn't mean that they will, or that their running candidate will be chancellor. No. The person becomes chancellor who is able to organize a single majority coalition in parliament that then elects him to be chancellor. And that is a vote in parliament. Yeah. So even three smaller parties, if they all together have a single majority, they can vote for a chancellor. And that chancellor doesn't even have to be part of a party or something like that. It can be some other guy. But they must agree in these coalition talks that they will elect this guy. And maybe there is a really big party in parliament who won the election, but nobody wants to work together with them because maybe their program doesn't fit with the other parties. And we see that with the AfD in the East, yeah, on the state level. Yeah, they are the biggest party or a very big party, but nobody talks to them. And that's why they have a coalition of multiple parties, and they did determine who the head of that state, so the governor, or minister president we call them, but in English, or from the States or from the USA, it is a governor basically. Yeah? And this is what we're seeing now. And they might be confused. Yeah? So I understand when people abroad don't know all this, but especially people in Germany, why do they think that the biggest party gets to be chancellor or something? No, because in the old republic, or let's say between the 50s and the 90s, the two large parties, or formerly large parties, Social Democrats, CDU, CSU, they had around 40%. And the only other party in parliament for a long time was the FDP, the Liberal Party. And none of these big parties had more than 50%. So they couldn't rule alone. And if they had a coalition together, that would have been really weird. That would be like 90% of the seats in parliament would be the government then, or would be the ruling coalition then. So that's kind of weird. So what happened is that the Liberal Party was the kingmaker. When they switched sides, when they changed sides from the more left-wing to the more conservative side, that's when also the Chancellor went from being a social democrat to being a quote-unquote conservative guy. Yeah? And this happened. Yeah? For example, Kohl, he got into power like that, with a basically the Liberal Party switched sides and made Kohl Chancellor then. Okay? And this is why this thinking is still very much in the heads or in the imagination of people, that they think, oh, this party is the biggest one, so it has the right to have the chancellor position now for their guy or something. Yeah, but that's not true. That is not true. If the parties in parliament get together and they have coalition talks and they have some goals and they want to realize those goals, and then they negotiate, and if they can form a single majority and agree on one guy, or one guy that they elect to be chancellor, then guess what? That guy is the chancellor then, and that will be the ruling coalition then. So doesn't matter who is the biggest party. Okay, and this is something that people have to understand, and this is something that gets very relevant, especially now. Okay. All right, so this is maybe for some people a little boring, and maybe some people knew it already, but I just felt the need to stress that. And yeah, some people have some misconceptions, and there is no, or another way to phrase it, as a reaction to what Laschet and Scholz said now, there is no call or there is no mission from the heavens above to form a government now with this and that party. Yeah? Whoever agrees, whoever gets a working coalition contract together, yeah, that's going to be the ruling coalition. Yeah? And as I said, and we see that right now already, the Green Party and the Liberal Party, the smaller parties, they will get together now, and they talk, and they will decide then who of the big parties, yeah, who won the election, yeah, who will be part of that coalition. Of course, then the Chancellor will be a guy from these bigger parties, but they need these smaller parties, and they have to start the talks. So, and of course, the Green Party wants to get together with the Social Democrats, and the Liberal Party, I think, tends to want to go together with the CDU CSU rather. And one has to see which side wins. Yeah, this is, and I think 1.5 percentage points doesn't say anything here. It will come down to other questions. But this is just theory. So this is just what our constitution, what our political system is supposed to look like. You guys know that this is not what's happening. But this is the framework, this is the plot, or this is the stage play that they need to present to the audience, to the voters, or to the citizens. So that is the that is the play that we will be about to witness very soon, or well, it starts now already. All right, take care. Servus, Kameraden.